Hi, I'm Julie Bowen. I'm 35 years old and work as a marketing executive. I've worked hard to build a career I'm proud of. I'm also a wife, married for 7 years to Adam, who isn't just my husband, but my biggest supporter. His love and encouragement have always been my strength, especially when dealing with his family. Let me tell you about the family I married into. There's Jennifer, my mother-in-law, who is sweet but obsessed with family traditions. Then there are Adam's cousins, Scott and Christine, who are genuinely kind and have always made me feel welcome. But there's also Lauren, Adam's sister. Well, let's just say she's not easy to deal with. Being around her has often tested my patience. That brings me to the morning of the family reunion. I was in our bedroom, adjusting a new dress in front of the mirror. My mind drifted back to a tough time in my life. Just a few months ago, I was lying in a hospital bed, scared and worn out, as a doctor told me I needed emergency surgery for endometriosis. I had silently dealt with this condition for years. It caused severe pain and even affected my ability to have children. The surgery was a big turning point. While it improved my health, it left scars, not just on my body, but also on my heart. I chose to keep it private because it was deeply personal and I didn't want to face pity or nosy questions from Adam's family. I especially dreaded Lauren's thoughtless comments about when Adam and I were going to have kids. I couldn't bear the idea of her turning my pain into gossip. Adam's voice pulled me back to the present. "Are you almost ready?" he called from downstairs. "On my way," I replied, taking a deep breath to steady myself. When I walked down, Adam greeted me with a warm smile and wrapped me in a hug. "You look beautiful, honey. How are you feeling about today?" he asked softly. I shrugged. As ready as I'll ever be to deal with Lauren. Adam hugged me tighter, his voice calm and steady. "Remember, I've got your back. No one needs to know about the surgery unless you're ready to share." He always knew just how to make me feel supported. The family reunion was an annual tradition held at a beautiful lake house that had been in the family for generations. It was meant to bring everyone closer, but over the years it had started to feel more like walking into a minefield. As we drove to the lake house, Adam and I joked about past reunions to ease the tension. "Remember last year when Lauren spilled red wine all over your white dress?" Adam asked with a grin. "Oh, I remember," I said, laughing despite myself. "She said it was an accident, but I'm not so sure I believe her." Adam shook his head. "Well, if she tries anything today, let me handle it." When we arrived, the lake house looked just as familiar as ever, with its weathered wooden beams and wraparound porch. The smell of grilled food and the sound of laughter filled the air. I stepped out of the car, adjusted my dress one last time, and took a deep breath. This wasn't just a family gathering for me, it was a test. A test of patience, strength, and the bond Adam and I shared. No matter what came our way, Lauren's remarks, nosy questions, or the silent struggles we carried, I knew we'd face it together. Holding on to that thought, I took Adam's hand and stepped forward, ready to tackle whatever this messy, beautiful, and sometimes challenging life had in store. As we got closer to the house, I turned to Adam with a sigh. "Do you remember how she told everyone about my job situation before I even got the chance?" I didn't even get the chance to explain it myself. The downsizing was hard enough without her turning it into a public spectacle. Adam let out a deep breath, gripping the steering wheel a little tighter. "Yeah, Lauren has a way of making everything harder than it needs to be," he said. "She really knows how to make me feel small," I muttered, my hand drifting to my abdomen, where my surgery scars were hidden. Adam reached over and squeezed my hand gently. "Not this year," he said firmly. When we arrived, Jennifer greeted us at the door with her usual cheerful energy. "Julie, sweetie, you look wonderful. Come on in. We've missed you." Her warmth made me smile as we stepped into the house, but the comfort didn't last long. Almost immediately, my eyes met Lauren's across the room. She stood on the far side, wearing a smirk that made my stomach twist. "Well, look who's here," she said, walking toward us with that confident air that always put me on edge. "Julie, dear, how have you been? Any news to share?" Her gaze flicked to my midsection, lingering just long enough to send a pointed message. My chest tightened and anxiety bubbled up. Before I could respond, Adam stepped in. "We're doing great, Lauren. How about you?" he said, wrapping his arm protectively around my waist. Lauren raised an eyebrow, unimpressed by Adam's attempt to deflect. "Oh, just peachy," she said with a sly grin. "Always curious to see what's new with you two. No little ones on the way yet." Before her comment could sting any deeper, her husband Ryan appeared, looking as awkward as ever. Standing just behind her, he said, "Hey guys, good to see you." His voice sounded overly eager. "Lauren, honey, why don't we go help your mom in the kitchen?" Lauren sighed, clearly annoyed, but allowed herself to be led away. As soon as they disappeared into the other room, I exhaled slowly, finally able to breathe again. "Thanks for that," I whispered to Adam. He kissed my forehead gently. "Always," he said. "Now, come on. Let's go say hi to Scott and Christine before Lauren finds something else to comment on." The sun shone brightly through the windows as we made our way into the living room, ready to face whatever the day would bring. I stepped out onto the back porch, letting the fresh air calm my nerves. The lake sparkled in the distance, and the sound of laughter filled the air. Family members were spread out across the lawn, some chatting near the grill, others playing horseshoes by the dock. I leaned on the porch railing, taking it all in, when I heard Scott's voice. "Hey, Julie, come join us," he called, waving from the basketball net he was setting up. I smiled and walked over, glad for the distraction. "You guys setting up for a game?" "Yep," Scott said, grinning as he handed me a basketball. "We need one more player. You in." For a moment, I let myself relax. This was what family reunions were supposed to feel like, fun, easy, and full of love. "Sure, just don't expect any Olympic-level moves from me," I said with a laugh as I joined the game. As I served the ball, I felt a glimmer of hope rise inside me. The challenges Lauren brought weren't going to disappear, but with Adam by my side and moments like this to ground me, I felt ready to face the day. The laughter and friendly teasing during the game were exactly what I needed. For a little while, I could forget the tension that lingered in the background. But it wasn't long before I noticed Lauren watching me. She sat at a table with a group of aunts, her sharp gaze following my every move. It felt like her eyes were cutting through the lighthearted mood, trying to remind me of the tension I wanted to ignore. I tried to shake off the unease and focus on the game, soaking in the joy of just being in the moment. After a while, Jennifer's cheerful voice called out, "All right, everyone, time for the family photo." We all gathered near the lake, laughing and nudging each other as we found our spots. The lake's calm surface shimmered under the afternoon sun, creating a beautiful backdrop. It should have been the perfect moment to capture a happy memory. But as I stood there, I couldn't help but feel the undercurrent of tension still lingering, waiting for the next twist in the day. I ended up near the front, with Adam's arm wrapped protectively around my waist. As always, his presence gave me comfort. The photographer raised his camera, giving us a moment to settle. "Okay, everyone smile," he said. Just as the shutter was about to click, I felt a sharp tug on my dress. "Oh, Julie, your dress is all wrinkled. Let me fix that for you," Lauren's voice rang out, sickly sweet. Before I could react, she yanked hard on the fabric. A loud, unmistakable ripping sound filled the air. For a moment, everything froze. A cool rush of air hit my skin, and I looked down in horror. My dress had torn open, exposing the scars on my abdomen. Scars from the surgery I had worked so hard to keep private. Gasps rippled through the group. I stood there, frozen in shock and humiliation, my mind spinning. I couldn't process what had just happened. "Oh my God," someone whispered, the words slicing through the silence. Adam was the first to move. He shrugged off his jacket and quickly draped it over me to cover my exposed skin. His voice was sharp and filled with fury as he turned to Lauren. "What the hell, Lauren?" Lauren let out a harsh laugh, her tone mocking. "Oops, I guess I don't know my own strength," she said with fake innocence. "Sorry about that, Julie." Her insincere apology stung almost as much as the humiliation. My cheeks burned, and tears stung my eyes. I couldn't look at anyone. Without a word, I turned and ran. The voices calling after me blurred into the background as I bolted into the house. My legs carried me upstairs to the nearest bedroom. Once inside, I slammed the door shut and locked it. Sliding down to the floor, I hugged my knees to my chest, sobbing uncontrollably. The humiliation, the pain, and all the effort I had put into keeping my struggles private came crashing down on me. Minutes passed before there was a soft knock on the door. "It's me, Adam," came his gentle voice. "Can I come in?" I hesitated, wiping at my tear-streaked face, then slowly unlocked the door. Adam slipped inside and immediately pulled me into his arms, holding me close as I broke down again. "I'm so sorry, babe," he whispered, his voice thick with emotion. "You didn't deserve that." "None of it." I clung to Adam, my face buried in his chest. "Why does she hate me so much?" I choked out. "Why would she do this?" Adam held me tighter, his voice steady and full of care. "I don't know, but this isn't your fault. She's the one being cruel, Julie, not you. You're the strongest person I know, and I won't let her hurt you like this again." For a while, we just sat there in silence, his arms around me like a shield against the world. Slowly, my tears began to stop, and I found comfort in his presence. "I don't want to go back out there," I admitted softly. "You don't have to," Adam said. "We can leave right now if you want, or we can stay and I'll take care of everything. Whatever you need, I'm here." His words steadied me, giving me a strength I didn't realize I still had. Taking a deep breath, I sat up and looked at him. "Let's stay," I said, surprising even myself. "I'm not going to let her ruin this for me, for us." Adam smiled, pride lighting up his face. "That's my girl." With his hand in mine, I felt a flicker of determination. Lauren may have tried to break me, but she didn't realize I wasn't standing alone. Together, Adam and I could face anything. Even her. "I can't believe she did that," I whispered, my voice shaky as I pressed my face against Adam's chest. Everyone saw Adam. They all know now. His arms tightened around me, and he gently stroked my hair. "It's okay," he murmured, his voice calm and soothing. "You have nothing to be ashamed of, Julie. Not a single thing." We stayed like that for what felt like forever, his quiet strength helping me pull myself back together. But then, muffled voices broke through the silence. "Lauren, how could you do such a thing?" Jennifer's voice was heavy with disappointment. "Oh, come on, Mom," Lauren snapped back, defensive and dismissive. "It was just a joke." How was I supposed to know she was hiding some big secret under there? Maybe if she wasn't so uptight all the time. I felt Adam stiffen beside me, his body tense with anger. His jaw clenched, and his hand gripped mine firmly. "I should go out there," he said, his voice low and filled with frustration. I grabbed his arm. "No, don't." "It'll only make things worse," I pleaded, my heart racing at the thought of creating an even bigger scene. Adam sighed and pulled me closer. "You're right, but we can't let her keep getting away with this." His words sparked something inside me, a strength I hadn't felt before. I pulled back slightly, meeting his eyes. "I'm done," I said, my voice steady despite the turmoil inside me. "I'm done letting her walk all over me. This ends now." This wasn't just about standing up to Lauren anymore. It was about reclaiming my dignity. No more hiding, no more shame. It was time to face this, scars and all. In the days after the reunion, I barely left the house. The humiliation replayed in my mind like a bad dream I couldn't escape. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Lauren's smug smirk and heard the gasps from the crowd. Adam tried his best to comfort me, but even his love couldn't quiet the storm raging inside me. Finally, one afternoon, I picked up the phone and called my best friend, Mary. "I can't take it anymore," I said, my voice cracking as tears filled my eyes. "Oh, honey," Mary said, her voice full of concern. "I'm coming over right now." Within an hour, she was at my door. As soon as I let her in, I collapsed into her arms, letting out all the emotions I'd been holding inside. Once we settled on the couch, I told her everything, years of frustration about Lauren's bullying and manipulation. "She's always putting me down," I said, my voice trembling, making me feel small, like I don't belong. But this was a new low. Mary listened closely, her brow furrowed in thought. She let me vent until I had nothing left to say, her presence as comforting as a warm blanket. When I finally finished, she took my hands in hers and said firmly, "Julie, you can't let her keep doing this. It's time to stand up for yourself." I sighed. But how? She's so good at twisting things around, making herself look like the victim. It feels like fighting a losing battle. Mary's eyes lit up with determination. "Then we fight smart," she said, her tone resolute. "We gather evidence, build a case against her, and show everyone who she really is." Her words sparked an idea I hadn't thought of before. Maybe it was time to stop playing defense and start taking action. Over the next few weeks, Mary and I worked together. Every time Lauren sent a snarky text or made a passive-aggressive comment in the family group chat, we documented it. Every time she twisted the truth or tried to make me look bad, we took note of it. At first, it felt strange, like I was plotting revenge. But Mary reminded me that this wasn't about getting even. It was about holding Lauren accountable. "This isn't just for you, Julie," Mary said one evening as we went over the growing file of evidence. "This is for anyone else she's hurt or could hurt in the future. People like Lauren get away with things because no one ever stands up to them." Her words gave me courage. Slowly, I started feeling like I was taking back control, not just from Lauren, but from the fear and shame that had held me back for so long. By the time the next family gathering came around, I felt ready. I didn't know exactly what would happen, but I was sure of one thing. I wasn't going to let Lauren or anyone else define me anymore. On the day of the gathering, I walked into the room with my head held high. My scars, both physical and emotional, were still there, but they no longer felt like weaknesses. They were reminders of my strength, my resilience, and my ability to rise above the pain. When Lauren tried her usual tricks, making a snide remark about my outfit, I stayed calm. I called her out, using the evidence Mary and I had gathered to back me up. For the first time, she didn't have a clever comeback. For the first time, the attention wasn't on me, it was on her. And for the first time, I felt truly free. Later that evening, while Mary and I were brainstorming our next steps, my phone buzzed on the coffee table. A text appeared on the screen. It was from Ryan, Lauren's husband. I hesitated, unsure of what to think. After a moment, curiosity got the better of me, and I agreed to meet him at a local cafe. When I arrived, Ryan was already there, seated in a corner booth. He looked nervous, his fingers drumming on the table. As I approached, he glanced up, his expression filled with guilt and unease. "Julie," he began, his voice low, "I'm so sorry about what happened at the reunion. But there's more you need to know about Lauren." I leaned forward, my stomach twisting with anticipation. Over the next hour, Ryan revealed a troubling side of Lauren's behavior, patterns I hadn't fully understood before. I hadn't fully understood it before, but now it all made sense. Ryan shared stories of how Lauren had manipulated not just me, but also him and their children. He talked about her strange obsession with money and hinted that something might not be right at her job. "I think she might be doing something illegal at work," he whispered, glancing over his shoulder nervously. "But I don't have proof yet." By the time we parted, I felt a new sense of clarity. Lauren's cruelty wasn't just a personal vendetta against me. It was a pattern of toxic behavior that affected everyone around her. Armed with this new information, I decided to dig deeper. If Ryan's suspicions were true, this wasn't just about my feelings. It was about protecting everyone Lauren had hurt. I started by reaching out to Lauren's former coworkers, carefully piecing together her work history. What I found shocked me. Reports of inappropriate behavior, frequent conflicts with coworkers, and unexplained financial issues. Next, I looked through her social media accounts, noticing subtle signs of emotional manipulation in posts about her children. They weren't obvious at first, but once I knew what to look for, the pattern stood out. The real turning point came when I started talking to other family members. One afternoon, Scott pulled me aside at a coffee shop, looking uneasy. "Julie," he said hesitantly, "I don't know if I should tell you this, but..." "What is it?" I asked, bracing myself. He sighed, then continued. Lauren's been spreading nasty rumors about you and Adam, about why you don't have kids yet. My heart sank. What kind of rumors? I asked, my voice barely a whisper. Scott hesitated before finally speaking. The words hit me like a punch to the gut. Lauren had twisted our struggles with fertility into a cruel story, painting me as selfish and career-obsessed, someone who didn't want a family. And that, I learned, was just the beginning. The more I investigated, the more lies and manipulation I uncovered. Lauren had been spinning false stories and spreading gossip for years, turning family members against each other with carefully placed half-truths. Christine was the next to come forward. During one of our late-night phone calls, she opened up about her own experiences with Lauren. She's always been jealous of you, Julie, Christine explained. It's like she can't stand seeing anyone happy or doing well. I think she sees you as a threat, Christine said. You're everything she's not: successful, confident, loved. It eats at her. Her words sent a chill down my spine. How could someone carry so much jealousy and resentment? As the pieces of the puzzle came together, my confidence grew. This wasn't just about me anymore. It was about protecting our family from Lauren's toxic behavior, which had gone unchecked for far too long. One evening, as Adam and I reviewed everything we had uncovered, the weight of our decision sank in. The table in front of us was covered with notes, screenshots, and statements from family members. It was overwhelming and exhausting, but it also felt empowering. Adam looked at me, his eyes a mix of pride and concern. Are you sure you want to do this, Julie? He asked gently. Once we confront her, there's no going back. I took a deep breath and met his gaze. I'm sure, I said firmly. This has gone on long enough. She can't keep hurting people, not you, not me, not anyone else. It's time for the truth to come out. Adam nodded, placing his hand over mine. I'm with you every step of the way, he said. With his support, I felt ready to face whatever was coming. Lauren had thrived in the shadows for too long, but the truth was finally about to come to light. I took another deep breath, thinking of all the lies, manipulation, and pain she had caused. Those weren't secrets anymore. They were truths I was ready to confront. As we finalized our plan, a mix of nervousness and determination filled me. The upcoming family gathering wasn't just another event. It was the moment we'd been preparing for, the showdown. Lauren had no idea what was coming, but I was ready, armed with the truth and surrounded by the people who mattered most. Walking into Jennifer's house for the gathering, I felt a surge of confidence I hadn't felt in years. Adam gave my hand a reassuring squeeze as we stepped into the living room, where the family was already gathered. Lauren's sharp eyes landed on me the moment we entered. A smirk tugged at her lips. Well, if it isn't the star of our last get-together, she sneered. Ready for another show, Julie's? Her words stung, but I refused to let them throw me off balance. This time I was ready. I took a deep breath, steadying myself. Actually, Lauren, I said, my voice calm but firm, I think it's time for your show to end. The room went silent, and every eye turned to us. The tension was so thick it felt like you could cut it with a knife. Slowly and carefully, I began to speak. I revealed everything I had uncovered: her workplace fraud, the financial irregularities Ryan had hinted at, and the lies she had spread to turn family members against each other. You've been manipulating all of us, I said, keeping my voice steady. Spreading lies, creating division, for what? Your own amusement? Your own gain? The weight of my words hung in the air as the family stared in stunned silence. I could see the disbelief on their faces and the slow realization of how deeply Lauren had tangled everyone in her web of deceit. Jennifer gasped, her hand flying to her mouth as tears filled her eyes. Oh my God, she whispered, her voice trembling. How did I not see this? Ryan stood up next, his face pale and determined. I can't do this anymore, Lauren, he said, his voice breaking. I've tried to shield our kids from this chaos, but it's too much. I'm leaving you, and I'm going to seek full custody. Lauren's carefully crafted facade crumbled before our eyes. The sharp, confident tone she always used was gone. She stammered, struggling to defend herself. but the evidence was undeniable. The family support she had relied on was gone. After the confrontation, Jennifer approached me, her hands trembling as she took mine. "Julie," she said softly, her voice thick with emotion, "I'm so sorry. I should have seen this sooner. Thank you for being brave enough to speak up." In the days that followed, the consequences of Lauren's actions grew. Her company launched an internal investigation after Ryan and I shared the evidence, and it wasn't long before she lost her job. Rumors of legal trouble began to circulate, but I stayed out of that. My goal had never been revenge. It was about moving forward. The family rallied around me, finally seeing Lauren for who she really was. Scott and Christine opened up, sharing their own experiences of her manipulation. It was as if a heavy weight had been lifted from all of us. For the first time in years, the family felt united. And for the first time in my life, I felt free. Months later, I stood in my office, looking out at the city skyline. The bustling energy of downtown life mirrored my own world, thriving, busy, and full of possibility. My career was flourishing, but more importantly, so was I. I was thriving. Adam and I had started having serious conversations about adoption. The idea of growing our family no longer filled me with fear or worry. Lauren's judgment, which used to overshadow every choice I made, no longer had any control over me. I thought about Lauren, now jobless, divorced, and distanced from most of the family. While I didn't feel happy about her struggles, I couldn't deny the relief I felt knowing she couldn't hurt us anymore. She had built her life on lies and manipulation, and now she was dealing with the consequences of her actions. Reflecting on everything that had led me here, I felt proud. The scars on my body, which once made me feel ashamed, now reminded me of my strength. They were a part of my story, a story of resilience, growth, and survival. With a small smile, I turned back to my desk. My life wasn't perfect, but it was mine. For the first time, I felt like I was truly living it on my own terms, free from the shadows of the past. I wasn't hiding anymore or making myself smaller to fit into someone else's expectations. I was standing tall, scars and all, finally free to be myself. Have you ever had to deal with a toxic family member? How did it affect your relationships? Share your story in the comments below. If you enjoyed this story about standing up to manipulation, don't forget to like and subscribe for more inspiring content.